Breaking news into the Fanfare newsfeed.
I've said this before. People would ask me, knowing what you know now, do you wish like you had a third term? And I used to say, you know what? If I could make an arrangement where I had a stand-in, a front man or front woman, and they had an earpiece in, and I was just in my basement in my sweats, looking through the stuff, and then I could sort of deliver the lines, but somebody else was doing all the talking and ceremony. I'd be fine with that.
And here's the saddest thing. His voice just trailed off. He said, I was good, and then he went silent, and he goes, oh, never mind. No, you're laughing. I thought it was so sad because I realized that's why he was in his basement during the whole election cycle. Right. Because even then, he couldn't finish his sentences. He struggled. So forget about politics. I don't care. I didn't vote for him. However, that made me sad.
Have you ever seen that video by Obama wishing that he had a puppet installed for his third term? What if a president who actually had bad intentions for America could install a puppet that he could run in the shadows? What if a president openly said he wanted to transform America and could do so in those shadows without any liability or scrutiny? Well, it looks like Obama got his wish. If you haven't seen the movie, The Manchurian Candidate, I urge you to download it and watch it tonight. Maybe go to Netflix or wherever you watch your movies, but watch The Manchurian Candidate. It seems you're watching a remake of that movie. Dementia Joe might just be a bot of sorts. He's an empty husk of a man who's being used as a trained monkey, and he's being handled by his shameless wife. What kind of woman, what kind of person would allow the person that they love, would allow their spouse to be used in such a way, in such a diminished capacity? Who would do that to their spouse? But here we find ourselves at the precipice of destruction, the destruction of America, with a president who is completely controlled. And now, as he seemingly nears the end of his usefulness, it seems as though they may be looking to cast him aside. Late yesterday afternoon, some information dropped that let us all know, or those of us who didn't know, that this entire presidency that we're watching is fake. Completely fake. We're watching a movie. It's all scripted. And as you watch this video and some of the content I'm going to show you, you have to ask yourself, why are you just finding this out right now? Perhaps the end game is near. Watch this.
Third act, and they're realizing the audience lost the plot, but they're sticking with the script. They're not listening to you because they don't care. Joe Biden's running the most highly produced, tightly choreographed, top-down campaign in presidential history, with the help of the CIA, corporate America, and media executives who want a puppet.
There you go. He named all of the branches of the puppeteer. Government, the CIA, whatever part of the government you want to put them into, and of course, the entertainment industry. And that includes news.
Who prints money, funds wars, and opens borders, as long as he doesn't offend anybody. When former ESPN reporter Sage Steele interviewed Biden, she says she was literally handed the script.
Are you surprised? You shouldn't be. She was literally handed a script and said, don't deviate from it. Check this out.
Thank you for being here as we get set for a wonderful day in sports. Opening day for America's national pastimes.
This was about 2 months after he took office.
Now understand what she just said there. Understand what she just said there. This scripted interview where they just made sure that Joe followed the script was in 2021, 3 years ago. He wasn't able to go off the cuff back then. He can't do what I'm doing right now, and he couldn't do it 3 years ago. 3 years ago, they said, Joe, you follow the script, you do whatever you're told. Ma'am, if you're going to be interviewing him, you got to make sure you're following the script, the entire thing. He cannot even think for himself, and that was 3 years ago. God help us now.
So structured, and I was told, you will say every word that we write out. You will not deviate from the script, and go to the word. Like
every single question.
Every single question, that hasn't changed. Every single question at each one of these fake press conferences, it's the same way. He knows the question in advance, and he knows who's going to ask it. And now we're finding out 3 years later, for some of you guys, we've known some of this stuff for years, but it's now out there in the general public that everything has been scripted so that Joe can even function.
Was scripted, gone over dozens of times by many executives, editors.
I always say that when people say what happened to Bud Light, and when they say what happened to, Nike or this company or that company, and I say, listen, I worked at a huge advertising agency. Nothing happens without a ton of people signing off. You're talking creative directors, you're talking account directors. These are just inside the ad agency. Then at the actual client level, you've got your marketing director, you've got your brand director, you've got senior VPs. It's the same thing with the interviews with Joe Biden. It all has to get signed off. Everybody has to say, okay, here's what we're going to do. It's a huddle, like a football play. And when they break that huddle, they expect that play to be run to perfection. No audibles can be called. There's no audibles here. You're going to run the play that we want you to run.
Executives.
Biden got the questions ahead of time. Almost the entire interview was about sports. 2 minutes of the interview was Biden telling a story about Jill putting a Flyers jersey on their dog.
Oh, wait, I got to stop there for a second. Just imagine this. We're not talking about nuclear war. We're not talking about Ukraine. We're not talking about some of the immigration bill. We're talking about sports. If you have to have a scripted sports interview, how far gone are you? I mean, I haven't watched a baseball game this year. Not spring training, nothing. I haven't seen a baseball game since probably early last September when the Red Sox got bounced out. But I can tell you what happened in 1967 with the Red Sox. I can tell you that Carl Yastrzemski won the Triple Crown. I can tell you that Jim Lonborg was one of our best pitchers. And I was in 1967. I don't need a script to talk about the teams I love. I can talk to you about the Miami Dolphins. I can talk to you about the Dallas Cowboys. I can go all the way back to Don Meredith and, what's the guy's name? Roger Staubach. I can talk to you about this stuff. I don't need a script. Why would you need a script to talk about baseball? It's baseball, America's pastime, just a game. Why would you need a script? Hey, Joseph, what do you think about the game today? Oh, I can't wait to see a couple home runs. Maybe if we're lucky, we might see a no-hitter. Just talk. Why do you need a script to talk about baseball?
It was all scripted ahead of time. It wasn't a real interview. ESPN executives in the White House were in on it. And if you deviated from the script, you're fired. None of this is real. That's why Biden's done more interviews with a weatherman than with the New York Times.
And as far as your memories of this house,
Now look at the look on his face. He has no idea where he is right now. And then what he says right here tells you he has no idea what the hell he's talking about.
I mean, we're assuming, I don't know what the future holds, but what are your favorite memories about this place?
Our kids jumping in bed with us, our grandkids when they're down here, just sneaking up and jumping in bed with us. That's my favorite memory here. They love it. They love wandering through the halls. There's 2 floors upstairs, a lot of bedrooms, there's private residence, and they just love coming down.
Our kids jumping in bed with us? Biden's youngest kid's 42. His grandkids? Well, Biden's grandkids are 30, 23, 23, 19, and 18. And Hunter's got 2 4-year-olds, and only one of them's ever been to the White House.
How could you not know that? How could you not know that as a great-grandfather or a grandfather, what your grandkids are doing? This is just insane, man. This guy has completely lost it, and Jill's just sitting there smiling along.
Joe Biden needs Al Roker's questions ahead of time. There's your campaign. Deny the polls, ignore the voters, and stick to the script.
Deny the polls, ignore the voters, and stick to the script. That's exactly what Joe Biden is doing these days. Sticking to the script. None of it should come as a surprise to anyone who's been following along. It's all been a ruse. It's been a Broadway play of epic proportions. It truly is the tail wagging the dog type of stuff. We've seen it Dementia Joe can't even climb the stairs to Air Force One. But his decline isn't his fault. We're all gonna age. We're all gonna get older. And unfortunately, some of us will eventually become in as bad a shape as Dementia Joe. We just won't be running for president. But again, why is the curtain finally being pulled back now? I mean, partially, because we're not going to see everybody working behind a curtain. We're only going to see a few of the people here working behind a curtain. In any event, this might be the reason why they're pulling it back now.
Almost in all occasions, Joe Biden is on script. And when he is on script, he is capable of pulling off something 10 times better than when he has to think. State of the Union, script. Speech, script. Most Q&A, script.
By the way, have you ever seen the teleprompter that Joe uses? The teleprompter is, when he's out on a campaign event, is like the size of a 75-inch television. You can't see either. It looks like a billboard, like a jumbotron when he's out at an event. And then, of course, when he's doing regular speeches, there's a teleprompter very close so he can see.
When is he not scripted? I'll give you one example. When he did an impromptu press conference on a few hours' notice after legal depositions were revealed, where a special prosecutor revealed all the mental mistakes Joe Biden made about when he was and was not in office and when his son died. He then lied to the American public afterwards, trying to suggest the special prosecutor brought up when Beau Biden died, and that's far beyond the pale. But it was Joe Biden that brought it up, ad lib, off script, that couldn't remember the death so important of his son. He can't operate off script.
That's the reason why this is happening now. Somebody, somewhere, I don't know who, but somebody wants us to know at this point that this guy can't deviate from a script. You know, they kept it quiet for 3 years. They kept Sage Steele quiet for 3 years. I'm sure we're going to hear other reporters come out and say, yeah, we can't really talk to Joe because, he can't really function in terms of a Q&A. I think we're going to see even more of that. But why right now? Well, I think Will's going to tell you right here.
He will not. Can you imagine? What are the odds he actually debates Donald Trump? They have got to be slim to none, minuscule, that he could put himself in a situation that is unscripted and survive a withering retort, rebuttal, cross-examination. That cannot happen. And I would be surprised if the White House were willing to put him in any interview environment.
It's not going to happen. I would put money on it. I would bet on it. I'm not really a betting man, except for when I play poker, but I would take a bet. I would go to DraftKings and say, he's not going to debate Donald Trump.
Where he was capable of being off script.
I want to debate Biden. I've actually put out a call and I said, for the good of the nation, we should debate anytime, any place.
Donald Trump's ready to debate you right now. Do you accept?
If I were him, I'd want to debate me too.
If I were him, I'd want to debate me too. Dude, anybody wants to debate you. I'm pretty sure my grandson, a freshman in high school, would love to debate you. You got no chance at winning a debate. Not a prayer. They know Joe can't debate Donald Trump. We know Joe can't debate Donald Trump. There's no secret there. There's no surprise. In fact, a recent poll said 72% of Americans want to see a debate, but they're not going to let it happen. It's not possible. It's not going to be in the cards. We are not going to see a debate between Joe and Donald Trump. But here's what's going to happen. One, they're going to say, hey, listen, Donald Trump didn't debate Nikki Haley and he didn't debate Ron DeSantis. So, debates aren't necessary. But they're going to leave off the fact that, Donald Trump was crushing Nikki Haley and crushing Ron DeSantis in the polls. So that's a little bit different. But to them, that's going to be one of the reasons they use for Joe not to debate Donald Trump, which leads me to number 2. They will begin concocting polls, orchestrating more puppeteering that show polls showing Joe opening a wide lead over Donald Trump. You see, they're going to follow the same playbook as to why Donald Trump didn't debate Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis. Oh, he had a big lead? Hey, guys, we got to show a big lead. Then we can say the same thing. We're not going to debate this loser. We're not going to debate loser Donald Trump. He's way behind. We can't do that. Then, of course, once those polls are in place, the media will gleefully report that he shouldn't have to debate Donald Trump. Donald Trump's way behind. These debates would be useless. It's over. Forget about it. He's beating the pants off of Donald Trump. There's no reason for a debate. You're going to hear that over and over as soon as they begin to concoct these polls. Harry, what are you talking about? Well, it's already begun. Right on time. This article is from the New York Post. Right on time. It is highlighted here. April 4th at 11:45 p.m. Biden campaign mass hires veteran pollsters. Mass hires. They brought in a ton of pollsters after a survey shows Trump is up in swing states. So they didn't like the polls, so you create new ones. And as the New York Post says right here, if you don't like the answers, change who asks the questions. President Biden's campaign has brought in a bevy of pollsters to assist his re-election effort, according to a report published one day after the Wall Street Journal survey revealed the Democratic incumbent was trailing former President Donald Trump in 6 competitive swing states. As soon as they saw the report, they brought in new pollsters. Just change the polls. That's as simple as all they have to do to get the media to begin pushing that out. The Biden campaign's 8 new hires included a mix of pollsters who previously worked for the president's 2020 campaign. Wait a second. So you're bringing in pollsters who are biased. They actually worked for the 2020 campaign, and others who helped Democrats better than expected performance in the 2022 midterm vote. So we don't like the polls that were run by independent third parties, so now we're going to get our own pollsters to run and get the numbers that we want to let you know about. You see what's going on here? They understand he's losing. He's losing the election. And now what you're going to see over the next couple weeks and months are these new pollsters who work on behalf of the campaign, who have ties to the media, who are just going to go out there and spew out the propaganda that needs to be said that shows Joe, all of a sudden, overnight, in basically 2 days, it's bad news for Trump. Joe Biden is ahead in all of the polls. Guarantee it. I guarantee it. You'll see it. It's going to happen. You're going to say, that's miraculous. How did things just turn around that fast? Now you know. I just showed you. If the new script ends up failing as bad as the current script, it's time for the final button to be pushed. They will simply find a new puppet. You see, they have seen how much fun it is to have a puppet president. The men and women behind the curtain don't want that to change whatsoever. They've assumed power and control of America with absolutely no liability. They can line their pockets with cash. They can make many people do whatever they tell them to do. They have a complicit media. They have complicit doctors and teachers. They have complicit prosecutors and judges. They have complicit congressmen and women and senators. The only thing that can stop them is Donald Trump. And they know that, which is exactly why we need Donald Trump. I truly believe that Donald Trump becoming president is the only way that the America we know survives. Let me know what you think about the script that's being run by the puppeteers behind the scene and what you think is going to happen next. Talk to you soon.